What is going on, everyone? My name's Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today we're talking Game Week 3 wildcards. I know it's early in the season, but a lot of people have hit the button, have popped their wildcard, and are building their teams for Game Week 3. This isn't clickbait. I've not built my draft, but if I was going to wildcard this week, I have had a look at what I would do. I have come close, actually, but not quite hit the button just yet, but I have put together a draft. So I'm going to run through that and kind of explain why I went for the players I've picked, and then go on from there. So we'll start off with the goalkeeper and defenders, and I've put the prices down instead of the next fixture because obviously, well, you want to see who's playing in Game Week 3 and whether the players have got good fixtures. You are getting players in for kind of a long period of time. You've not got another wild card for a long time, so you don't want to have to make wholesale changes again. In goalkeeper, I've got Button at 4.0 million. He's the backup I've gone for. Realistically, you could go for any backup. He's not going to play unless Ryan gets injured, so the chance of that happening obviously quite slim, but you never know. And then Pope at 4.5. I think I would definitely go for a 4.5 million keeper at this point. I could have got behind starting with a 5.5 or a 6 million premium keeper at the start of the season when we're not quite sure about who's going to perform, where we want to put the money in the squad. But now I think we know where we got an idea at least of where we want to put the money. So 4.5 million, I don't think he's done anything wrong so far. I think one theme that will run throughout this wildcard draft is it's obviously only a 2-week sample size. So the reason that a lot of the players are still the same from the start of the season is because we don't necessarily have enough info to fully change them just yet. So Pope's in for me. I'm happy with him so far on my current team, and I think I'll go for him on wildcard. In defence, let's start with Robertson. I think Liverpool have not performed how we hoped. They've conceded a lot more shots than we would have expected. I think you'd expect at least one, maybe even 2 clean sheets against Norwich and Southampton. Obviously, Norwich did well, and Southampton could have possibly scored more, but it was a silly mistake from Adrian in the end. So hopeful that over the next couple of fixtures they can get more, but if you have the most expensive defender in your team, easy downgrade to any other defender. So I like the Robertson pick. I prefer him still to Trent Alexander-Arnold, mainly because I've got that slight doubt in my mind about whether Trent's going to start as many fixtures. But realistically, if they're both on the pitch, there's every chance that Alexander-Arnold will get more points than Robertson, or at least match him. So take your pick for Liverpool defender, but I would definitely have one still. Lucas Digne, not put a foot wrong so far, possibly injured for Game Week 3, but it looks like he's been in training and is probably going to be okay for this weekend. Even if he misses out, I don't think he's going to miss more than 1 week. So I like him still. 1 attack and return, 2 clean sheets in 2 games, brilliant. And Everton have still got 4 really nice fixtures, so I would definitely have him in. And then this is kind of where I've changed. So instead of having a second Liverpool defender, I've kind of saved a bit of money and put Wan-Bissaka in at 5.5 million. I think Man United are doing okay in defence. If you look at their expected goals conceded, they're only bettered by Man City. Yes, they conceded a lot of shots to Chelsea, but they weren't necessarily good quality shots. And the fixtures coming up, they've already played Chelsea and Wolves, which were quite tough. And now the fixtures they've got coming up are good. So I think Wan-Bissaka looks good for bonus if Man United get clean sheets. Maybe a little bit more attacking potential, but we've not really seen it yet. But I think for 5.5 million, he's probably one of the better Man United defenders. But Maguire for goal threat, Shaw for attacking returns as well. You could look at either of them, but I like Wan-Bissaka. The Leicester dude, Soyuncu, I think is how you pronounce it. It's only 4.5 million. I think this is basically a 4.5 million defender slot. And obviously you can pick who's the best. You've got Montoya maybe at Brighton playing as a wing back. Could be an option. But I think Leicester's defence is going to do pretty well this year, even without Maguire. So him for 4.5 million when the rest of the defenders are 5 million plus, that feels like an underpriced player to me. So I've got him in. And Lundstram, he's almost must have. I'd say if I was looking through this team of absolute, if someone was wildcard and not having them, I don't know how you can't pick Lundstram unless you're playing 5 big players at the back. He's playing as a midfielder, already got an attack and return and a clean sheet. There's no reason why that won't happen over the course of the season. And you'll see when I go through the midfielders and forwards why I've got him in, because there are going to be weeks when you want to play him instead of one of your forwards or one of your midfielders. So defence is not as big at the back as I started Game Week 1, but there's still 3 big defenders in there. There's room to downgrade them if you want to upgrade the attack later on. And I think when you are this early in the season, you've got to still think ahead that you've got another 17 weeks until you can at least wildcard again, and you might even want to leave that wildcard even longer. So I would like to still have options where you can downgrade it. You want to still be flexible even if you are wildcarding in Game Week 3. So adding in the midfield, I've gone pretty big. De Bruyne, Sterling, Salah and Martial to have a big midfield forward. Cantwell in there as well, who could be a playable option, to be honest, as a 5th midfielder. We'll come on to that in a minute. So with De Bruyne, Sterling and Salah, obviously, yes, I'm loading up on midfield. That does make it harder to get big hitters up front. I think when we're working again off a 2-week sample size, I don't think that the likes of Aguero, who's the same price as Sterling, Aubameyang and Kane have done enough to warrant a place on my side. Now, I know a lot of people want Kane because he is looking good in the first game, not against Man City, but not many players do. And he does have Newcastle at home in Game Week 3, but I'd be happy captaining Sterling against Bournemouth away. And then going forward, I'd be looking at a rotation of Man City and Liverpool. So Kane's not really in my thinking. So spoiler alert for the forwards, Kane is not there. So in midfield, I think Sterling and Salah I've had since the start. I'm not really looking to go away from them. I do think there's an argument to have Mane. He has outscored Salah in 2019, like a lot of people have pointed out. He does save £1 million as well. So if you've got £1 million that you want to use elsewhere, you could do that downgrade. And I think you'll be happy to captain Mane as well as you would Salah. And obviously you've got Sterling as backup for captain as well. So it's maybe not as prominent to have Salah in your team. So I've gone for Salah still, and I probably would do that for wildcard this week, but I can see an argument for Mane. De Bruyne, I can't watch Man City anymore without having De Bruyne in my team. I kind of want a third Man City player. I think Laporte is just quite expensive at 6.5. There's reports that Mendy's back in training now. So yes, he might not get in the team straight away, but Zinchenko is going to be a risk down the line. So have to have a second Man City player. They're just too good. They're going to be the best team again this year. They're going to score loads of goals. So De Bruyne has looked irresistible, to be honest, in the first 2 games. So he's already stacked up a bunch of points, and that's going to carry on. So he's in. Then Martial, I just think number 9 for Man United. They've probably not had as many shots as I'd like, and I think Man United in general probably haven't been as attacking as I would have liked to have seen. But they have played Chelsea and Wolves, and the fixtures do get better, like I said, for Wan-Bissaka now. So I think for 7.7 million, I would have him in. And if it goes wrong, there's other midfielders around 6 million. You could downgrade to someone like that. If you can find a bit of extra money, you can go up to the likes of Sigurdsson or Richarlison if they start doing well. So there are options around that price. And obviously you've got the other 7.5s, Fraser, Lucas Moura and players like that if they come back into contention. So I definitely go with Martial for now. Of course, it is a bit of a bandwagon off the first 2 weeks, but that is the kind of thing we're working off for Game Week 3 wildcards. And then Cantwell, I think he's created the second most chances in the whole league, just behind De Bruyne, for Norwich. Obviously, they have played Liverpool as well in that time. And Norwich do look like they're going to come out on attack. And I think for 4.6 million, he looks great. And I've got a big midfield 4, a big defence 3, so 3-4-3. I'll tell you now, I've not got a third forward that I'm going to play. So really, you're rotating Cantwell, Lundstram, and Soyuncu. And you're basically playing whoever's got the best fixture that week. So Cantwell and Lundstram rotate pretty well. But if Soyuncu's got a better fixture, and apologies if I am butchering that name, you could play him instead. So you've got options there. You play the big 7, Lucas Digne, Wan-Bissaka, Robertson, De Bruyne, Sterling, Salah, Martial, and then play one of those other 3 players. And obviously then we'll talk about the forwards and the 2 that I've gone with so far. So up front, I have gone with Pukki. So that is double Norwich attack, so that does worry me a little bit. But it is hard to look past Cantwell as the best midfield option at 4.6 or under. You could still stick with Dendoncker. Like, I'm in no rush to get rid of Dendoncker, but if I was wildcard, I'd go for Cantwell. Pukki and Barnes have basically got the best underlying stats when it comes to that kind of price forward. For Pukki, he's got the kind of best underlying stats for attackers full stop alongside Sterling in terms of kind of shots in the box and stuff. So I feel like he has to come in now. Maybe it could be this year's Jimenez. Obviously, Jimenez was a bit cheaper. We don't know if Norwich are going to continue this form. And upcoming fixtures aren't the easiest. I think Chelsea and Man City at home and then 3 away games in the next 5. Maybe not ideal, but the way Norwich are playing, I just think you can't really look past him, given the other options available. Jota hasn't really hit the ground running yet. King got a goal from a penalty. There's Ings as well to consider. But I think Barnes and Pukki probably best underlying stats currently. And that's why I'll go with those 2. And it is a bit boring because there's just not been too many options to talk about right now. But I think there's enough options in that price bracket going forward, even if they've not come to the forefront yet. I think Jota will still do really well. Let's see how Europe affects them. But I think long term he could be good. King could still be good once Bournemouth's fixtures get better. So there are options to swap these 2 from. And I think I'm not prepared to spend, like I already said, premium money on a forward, so the kind of Kane level. The one player I would be interested in is Rashford. And it's hard to make up the extra money to go for him over Barnes, I think, with this setup I've got. But I think if you were looking at going for a bigger priced striker, then Rashford looks pretty good. And obviously Pogba missed that penalty, and there are now rumours that Rashford will be on them full time. He hasn't missed a professional penalty yet. But of course, he's only taken a few, but still, he could be on penalties. And I think that would be really good for 8.6 million. And the reason I've got Wickham in instead of Greenwood, who a lot of us have got already, and people will laugh at this, and I'm sometimes biased towards Man United, but I always say when I'm being biased that when you shouldn't do it. Like when I got Sanchez last year, I said that you shouldn't get him. But I genuinely think there's a reason not to go for Greenwood now, and that's if you look at people's wildcards, they're all going for Martial. Wan-Bissaka is a genuine option if you think Man United will keep clean sheets going forward. So you've already got 2 Man United players, and if Rashford's 8.6 million and then gets confirmed to be on penalties, that could be really good value. Man United got so many penalties last year. If they get that this year, Rashford can absolutely smash it at 8.6 million. So while now you might be thinking, Man United, no way I want 3 of their players. If you think about it, and you've already got Martial and Wan-Bissaka, it's only one more you've got space for. If you get Greenwood, that's potentially an extra transfer in order to fund any money to get Rashford in. Whereas if you just go with Wickham from the start, or any of the other 4.5 million forwards, I think Wickham's probably the slightly better one. You can just do maybe Pukki or Barnes if you've got the money to Rashford. Not worry about having Greenwood stuck in your side. So these are my wildcard team. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't think there's many players that I would change, to be honest. I like the idea of having Cantwell, Lundstram and Soyuncu, name pronunciation aside, to play every week, and then play the kind of Barnes, Pukki, Martial, Salah, Sterling, De Bruyne, Lucas Digne, Wan-Bissaka and Robertson. I think you've got good price points as well to go to other players if they don't work out, which I think is always important, because you don't want to have to be going through multiple transfers to get a player in. And for example, De Bruyne, that lets you go straight to Pepe at Arsenal, straight to Son at Spurs. So Son could be really good at Spurs. I don't know if he's going to come straight back into the side, but if he does and he's firing, then he's definitely a player I always want to look at. So that's the draft as it stands now. So that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of my draft. Was it awful? What changes would you have made? I know it's probably quite similar to a lot of the squads you guys have already got. But of course, there's going to be people that didn't start with Lundstram. They probably got the wrong goalkeeper. They want De Bruyne, they want Martial, and suddenly they don't want to make all those transfers to get the players in, and maybe they're happy with the data they've got going forward and want to make that wildcard decision. So like I said, let me know in the comments below. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like. That always helps. And subscribe if you're new around here. Loads more content to come. This should be going out on Thursday afternoon. There'll be a stream as well Thursday night around 9:30 p.m. as well, to go for all your questions going into game week 3, and plenty more content to come throughout the season. So make sure you subscribe. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Cheers all.